Hi, my name is Meredith. I think there are a lot of writers out there like me who do not specialize in romance, but could still use some help in the romance department. So I picked up this book, Romancing the Beat by Gwen. So this book is aimed towards people who are writing romance as a main plot, but I think that there's a lot that we can learn from a romance arc, even if it's not the main plot, or especially if it is your main plot. So what I love about this book is that it maps on perfectly to the 4-act structure proposed by Save the Cat, and that's pretty much the lens through which I see all other writing craft advice is that 4-act structure lens, and I have a video on that, so I'll link that up there and you can watch that to give you some context for how these romance beats map onto a larger structure. I'm going to take you through the structure of a romance arc. Romance books specifically are a little bit stricter than for other books. Like there really is quite a formula for it. And of course you can be creative within that formula. But I also think that if you're not having romance as a main plot and your romance is definitely a subplot, you can do a lot more with it, such as not have the characters actually be together in the end. For romances, the main point of it is that the characters get together in the end. So what's cool about the romance arc is that the romance arc is completely tied into the internal character transformation arc, which is what Save the Cat talks a lot about. It's the B story, and the A story is the external plot. And so the romance, being the main plot, is actually the internal plot of the book. It's the character transformation. And so I think that's what's really fun about romance is that the main point of the book is to take you through this character transformation. So first things first, we have to break the story structure up into 4 quarters, just like in Save the Cat. So in Save the Cat, the 4 quarters are the setup. So that's Act 1, where we have everything, including the inciting incident, the debate, and then the push into Act 2. And so then in the second quarter, it's fun and games. They're learning the world of Act 2 and they are going along the premise. Then there's the midpoint, which is an important event that changes the story in some significant way. And then there's the bad guys close in section where things get serious and dangerous and life starts to unravel a little bit. And then the internal arc dips down into the all is lost moment, the dark night of the soul, the processing, the character change. And then in the fourth quarter, they learn the lesson that they're supposed to learn in the aha moment and then can go on to complete the finale and to win in the end. Those are the 4 quarters of the Save the Cat story, and that almost every single story falls into. So here's the structure of a romance that maps on to those 4 quarters of your overall story structure. The first quarter is setup, just like the first act in the Save the Cat structure is also set up. So same thing, it's just that you're setting up the romance. So you're setting up character 1 and character 2 and they're meeting, and then the reasons why this isn't going to work out initially. You need a reason for these characters to not get together on page 5, because if you did, then it wouldn't be a romance journey, it would just be 2 people deciding to date. So there's some kind of reason why these characters do not want to get together, or they're afraid of love, or there's something holding them back from this relationship. And then at the end of this first quarter, there is the adhesion, which means that they get set off on their journey together. This adhesion is essentially the conflict, it's the plot, it's the world of Act 2, or the premise. So there's something that pushes these characters together, even though they're scared of love. They're scared of this idea that this other person presents. And usually this is some type of conflict that they have to tackle together, some problem that they need to work together on that only the 2 of them can solve. There's a lot of different tropes that can push 2 characters together when they're not initially in love with each other, that sets them on a journey of falling in love. So the second quarter, which is the fun and games, is called falling in love. So even if you have an external plot where there's the fun and games going on in the external plot, there's also going to be the fun and games going on in your romance subplot. If you have a mystery, your characters are going to be discovering clues together, or whatever your premise is, your characters are going to be doing things together and getting inklings of the fact that this person is really cool and they might actually kind of like them even though they're scared of that. During this second quarter is the falling in love arc, and what's going to happen is that initially they're going to keep finding reasons why they can't be with this person, why they have to deny their feelings, why this just wouldn't work, why they're scared of this, and then they have to keep finding reasons why they have to rethink that, why they think, oh wait, maybe I do really like this person, maybe I have feelings. During this part, they're also going to see the ways in which their romantic interest actually defies the fears that they have about love, and how this person makes them a better person. This person shows them that the lie, the misbelief that they have is actually not true, that actually their fear isn't a good enough reason to stop them, and they shouldn't be listening to this lie that they believe. So this whole second quarter is falling in love, having fun, and realizing that maybe things are different than they thought. So then the midpoint of the romance arc is basically them getting together. This is, that first passionate kiss. This is something more. This is them deciding that actually this might work and they go for it. Now, if your romance is a subplot and it's not your main plot, maybe they're taking things very, very slow. Maybe it's a slow burn. This might not be a whole moment of stepping into the relationship. Either way, this is a triumphant moment where love wins and the characters let themselves think this could really, really work. Now, this is a false victory. This is a super high point where everything's going to go downhill after this. Then the third quarter comes, which in Save the Cat, that's bad guys close in. That's bad news. Things start to fall apart. If you have an external plot, then the danger is increasing and the bad guys are moving in. Those high point moments during the midpoint and the falling in love part, those moments start to collapse into fear and doubt and second thoughts. So this quarter of the book is called Retreating from Love. What happens here to start this off is an inkling of doubt. Or if they had a doubt before, something about this person that is an inkling of their fear that they were seeing the whole time but kind of ignoring because they were falling in love, now that doubt is going to creep up on them again. In a true romance where things work out, where this is the person that's going to heal their heart, this inkling of doubt is going to be something that's a little bit false, something that is a misunderstanding. People really hate the miscommunication trope, but it can be done well, or it can be a misunderstanding that maybe someone is purposefully keeping from that person for a very good reason. Either way, the character believes that the fear that they had about love is actually coming true in this other person that they've fallen in love with. So, say if somebody has been cheated on in the past and they're terrified of love because they don't want to be left or cheated on or lied to again, they might start to suspect that the person that they've fallen in love with is cheating on them or is lying to them or something like that. They might have this deepening doubt. This hint of doubt is not actually about something true. This is something that's going to push the character to confront their fear and their misbelief and get over it. So then this creeping doubt is going to cause them to eventually retreat from love because their fear overtakes them and they end up giving up the person that they were falling in love with that made them a better person. And they pull back from this good thing that they've almost let themselves have. At the end of this section, this is when we get to, in traditional structure, the all is lost moment, which is where they make decisions that end in them losing everything that they have worked for, everything that they care about, and they're emotionally beaten down, but it's usually by their own choices and actions because they've been operating on a misbelief or a flaw. And so in the romance arc, what happens is that they totally put their shields up again and a breakup happens. So this is known as the third quarter breakup. People tend to call this out in romance books, and the truth is just that this is the structure of a romance novel. This is what happens to take a romance and use it to affect character growth and change. You have to have the character completely retreat from love, which means shutting down that relationship entirely. This is a very important beat, but I think that the problem with it, why people seem to be calling it out, is because it's done in a similar way a lot of times. And I think that you can take some originality and throw it into this. And so I think breakup can mean a couple different things. And I think you have a lot more leeway if this is your subplot. But even if it is your main plot, a breakup moment could be that they're not able to get to each other, or the bad guy has closed in and taken one of them. Whatever original, creative, fresh way that this breakup happens, it has to be because the main character has completely retreated internally from love and caused it in some way. And so then the next beat, this is the dark night of the soul. And this is basically the beat where the character thinks, what have I done? They've lost everything and they need to come to the point of realizing that it's their fault and that they're the one who pushed away love. They're the one who was acting on a misbelief and they lost everything because of it. And this is where they learn the lesson by doing some deep reflection. So then there's the aha moment. In this book, it's called the wake up or catharsis. And this is learning the lesson. This is learning, oh, this person didn't cheat on me. I pushed them away because I was afraid. And I need to just realize that some people are actually trustworthy and I can actually open my heart to someone if that's their misbelief or flaw. Whatever your character's misbelief about love is, they're going to realize that it's not true and they're going to come to the light in this moment. In a romance book and a romance subplot, there is a beat called the grand gesture. This is the moment in romance movies that just have you kind of squealing inside. It's where they, run all the way in the pouring rain to go catch the train or meet them at the airport and say, no, don't go, I choose you, all that stuff. So this is the moment when the person has to prove to the person that they've pushed away that they actually do want this relationship and that they're ready to commit to it. And that they've also learned their lesson and given up their misbelief. In a book where there's an external plot or also the romance is a subplot and not the main plot, this grand gesture is going to be wrapped up into that main plot. So maybe the hero goes and saves the love interest from the clutches of the villain. And so that's going to fit into your finale if you're writing a book that's not purely a romance. And then the next beat is essentially resolution. Now that they have chosen to be in this relationship and finally all the conflict, all the barriers, all the external plot mess is gone. They've achieved what they wanted to. They made the grand gesture. They got the guy, got the girl. What does that look like for them? A lot of times, this moment is a mirror moment to one of the first moments or the first scenes of your book, showing how drastically the world has changed and their life has changed now that they've gone through this journey of learning to love somebody else and conquering their fear and turning around that lie that they believed and realizing the truth so that they can live in a better way and basically heal the wound that they had about love. And then the last beat listed here is epilogue. So if you have an epilogue showing sometime in the future about how that love story has turned out, this can be a really, really sweet moment of giving the reader a little something extra just to warm the heart. And what's an interesting note about this is that maybe you don't want to make it all just completely sunny, but keep like a tiny beat of tension still in there of like a lingering, not everything is perfect in life, but they still got their happy ending despite it. I think this book is such a neat guide to a romance arc. And again, if romance is not your main plot, you can play around with this a little bit, but I also think this just gives such a good baseline, a great, great, great structure for how you affect character change by giving somebody a romantic partner. This book is really tiny. It's like 80 pages. It's basically just a beat sheet manual. So if you are interested in this, you should totally buy it and get more detail about your own romance arc and how to write one, especially if you've pantsed it, or even if you have plotted it, but you're just going by intuition of what you think a love story should look like. This can really help you give it some solid structure and give some reasoning behind each of the moments that the characters are going to experience along the course of the romance. I hope you learned a little bit more about the romance arc and about writing romance books. That's all for today. Give this video a like if you enjoyed the content, and also subscribe if you want to see more writing craft tips, tricks, and vlogs from me. I also have a Fiverr for developmental critiques and book coaching, so check the link to Fiverr down below if you're interested in that. Thanks so much for watching, happy writing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.